It says intensity is 5 of 10. Well, let's see about that. Smells good.
All right, guys. Welcome to a episode of I don't know, something. I guess it will be unscripted mostly. I've been doing this thing for I guess about 6-7 months. It's had some ups and downs. And to be honest, it just takes a lot of work to make something that's scripted. But today, I'm just gonna do something a little bit unscripted so that I could get more content out here. And to be honest, sometimes I just don't want to edit that much. So hey, let's just keep it real, all right? I'm kind of a lazy guy, just like everybody else sometimes. So let's just be honest about it. So hey, let's get to it. So today, I just wanted to take a quick look at a couple Casio watches. So a quick wrist check. I guess this is a S100 Casio. I've shown it. Actually, I haven't shown it on the channel, but I have talked about it before. But today's going to be an episode just about Casio. So I've got a couple watches with me today. So here we go. This is the Casio Royale in black. Okay, a very famous watch amongst the internet YouTube community, I suppose. Even amongst any watch collector, Casio has its footprint on many people's hearts and minds, just because of the price and also because of the quality that you get from such a well-rounded manufacturer. I guess I would say, they just hit everything top shelf. It's just in some areas not so much, but overall, like it's very balanced overall. So I think they provide a lot of value proposition, but also at the same time a very aesthetic and clean look. So here we're just taking a quick look at the Casio Royale today, and then in comparison, I'm going to talk about that in comparison to the GA2100, the Casio Oak. Now this one is in digital glitch pattern. This one was all the rave probably about a year and a half ago, and you know what, to be honest, it probably still is, just because of the Royal Oak reference that it really brings and pays homage to. I feel like you just can't get away out of that the faceted look without ever going to Royal Oak, I guess. So hey, for better or worse, that's what it is, right? So let's take a quick look at these two watches today. Just compare and talk about some of the good things, some of the bad things, but especially in direct comparison too. Just because the watches are not at the same price range. This one is what is it? I think 140 USD, the Casio, and the Royale is only about $30, I think, or 25 USD. You can get this on Amazon. You can also get this at Walmart, I believe. People have said you can just walk into Walmart in some cases and pick these up for $15. And there's a very strong modding community amongst the internet, and you can get very interesting mods for both of these watches to turn them into more upscale watches. But hey, you know what? At this price range, you might as well just wear it for a while, and if it breaks, then you can make the upgrade, I say. So enough talking about the watches from afar. Let's take a closer look and just talk about some of the things that come to mind. So I guess I would like to break up the video into two separate parts. The first part is going to be very factual, I guess, very specific, a lot about the tangibles in comparison with the two watches, primarily the sizes, looking at the case shapes. But in the latter half of the video, I think it's more important to talk about the intangibles of the watch, and also like why one might like one watch versus the other. And I think I'll wrap it up with a personal take on the watches themselves. I am a watch collector, but at the same time, I also use the watches. So as a personal user, you know, amongst these two watches, which one is it that really gets the more wrist time? And I'm just going to quickly talk about why that is the case. Okay, so that's the introduction. Let's get into the video. All right, peace. All right, so here we go. On my left is the Royale. On my right is the Casio Oak. So first off, you can see that the Casio Oak is slightly wider, and also it is a tad bit taller, and to be honest, it just does wear larger. So if you have a small wrist, that is definitely a something to think about. And so it is just bigger. Okay. Also with the bezel, you know, you get a lot more material with it. So just in the hand, it does feel slightly big, I guess, bigger compared to the Royale. So then what about the case shapes? Well, this one is I guess it's a softened square, I guess, rectangle. This one is of course the Royal Oak inspired design with the faceted edges here on the bezel. I mean, yeah, sure, it has an integrated bracelet as well, I suppose you could say. I mean, of course, you know, this is the Royale is a purely digital watch. I mean, sure, here right at the upper left is a digital display of a analog clock, but you know that's not really what you're here for. I suppose you're going to be here for the digital display. Here you've got the analog display, but you've also got some information here in this watch, at least in a negative display, a running seconds hand, and that's where a lot of the information on your secondary features will come through. Okay. So then let's, I guess, talk about the features. You know, I mean, this Royale has obviously the time. It tells the time, of course, has a second time world time zone. I set mine to Tokyo. Here's an alarm you can set. I think this one can do multiple alarms. You know, I don't use my alarm for the watch. I just use my cell phone for that. There's a timer. I do use that to time, you know, short events or whatever it may be. The stopwatch is always very useful when you're doing exercise and you gotta time your stuff. Even just you know, just everyday stopwatch, right? Any chronograph lover will tell you that. And of course, this is just the regular time, back to regular time. Also has a light feature. I can't really show it that well, but you can see it turning on right there. I believe it's both sides. Yeah. So you know, you get quite a lot of illumination at night, which is great. You know, same thing here. This is the regular time here being displayed at the moment. Here I can change to a stopwatch. Here's the timer. Here's the alarm. Here's the time right now. And here's the world time here. Okay. I guess the one thing is that when you change to the second time zone, or the world time here, the main hand does not change. The main hand tells the local time, and in that negative display on the upper half is where the second time zone is read. You know, one thing in practice, it's not bad, but you see, like right now, the hour hand is covering up the LED portion, and so it becomes really finicky to read sometimes. Whereas on this watch, you know, you don't have it on the main display, so you don't have an accurate dual time. I guess they could have done it with the digital analog there, but you know, here you got to switch between the two. And to be honest, that is actually more legible and more usable than having it like this, where it's kind of shrouded by the hour hand in some cases, making it quite literally useless, I feel. I mean, that's kind of where this video is going. Just a little heads up. You know, and so these two watches, you know, pretty much offer the exact same features. All right. Of course, they're quartz operated, and there's no Bluetooth, there's no GPS. This one is a 10-year battery life, I believe they advertise. if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you can read it there, I think. 10-year battery. This one, I believe, is a 3-year battery life. I've had it now for about 2 years. It has not needed to be replaced. And so that's that. This also has a light feature as well. You can see it turning on here, but it's only on that bottom right portion, not on the bottom left. So this one does not feature as much light, but with the watch having luminescence, I guess you sort of don't really need it, or I forget, is it even loomed? I'll have to double check. Okay, so that's just about the features of the watch. Okay, well, let's talk about the water resistance, I guess. I mean, this one is 10 bar, this one is 20 bar. I've taken both into the ocean, and they both work fine. I've taken them into the pool. Just be careful when you do take them into the ocean. When you come out, you should give them a rinse through regular water, getting any of that salt water out, and make sure they get dried. So both pretty robust watches. They've gone through hell and back. They've never failed me. It's just that I do like one over the other. So let's just keep talking here. More features we can talk about. The bracelet. So one thing I really find the difference here is that the bracelet. So here you can see the G-Shock, the Casio GA2100 bracelet here. You can see I'm just tapping it, but you can see kind of how stiff it gets. And here, I'll show you. This is the Royale, and you can see how springy this bracelet is, just showing you how much softer it is, whereas this one is much stiffer. And you can just see that when I lay them on the table. The Royale lays flat, whereas the Casio does not, and even if you tried, it will kind of stand up and then eventually it'll just tip over. I think you can actually, no, I guess you can't. I think with the Timexes you could kind of open the bracelet up so that it could lay flat, but here you cannot, which is a real bother for me. One thing I have to note is that I did have a G-Shock prior, not a 2100 like this, but very similar case. One thing I did have is that due to the bracelet not folding out or folding in like typical watches do, I have had a G-Shock come loose out of my bag because of this desire to want to spread the bracelet. So I think the zipper on the bag was not so strong, but for whatever reason the G-Shock was in the pocket as flat, and then it tried to open up like this, and then eventually it fell out. So one thing is that the bracelet is just a bit stiff, and that just kind of goes into when you're putting the watch on itself. It's stiff. Even when you have it on, it just doesn't feel as soft and supple, I suppose, as the Royale, which definitely has a much softer bracelet. This is $25, and it's actually a much better bracelet on wrist than the Casio. I mean, they're two different materials, I think. They're kind of a polyurethane kind of thing, but this one is more shiny, more plasticky. This one is more rubbery, I suppose is the best way to put it. Okay. And I think that's pretty much about it for the intangibles, or sorry, the actual tangibles and the specifics of the watches. They're weight wise, they're just regular Casios. You're not going to break the bank here. I mean, sure enough, this one is slightly heavier, maybe like by 20 grams, but I think the weight on this is only about like 80 or 90 grams, whereas this is probably coming in at about like 50 grams or so. Okay, so let's just move on to the intangibles. So this is a bit more subjective, and this is, I guess, kind of what really makes or breaks a watch for a user, like a personal experience. One user will have a very different set of experiences when wearing this Casio, compared to myself, to somebody else. And they may end up loving this Casio over the Royal. And that may be due to a number of reasons that are unknowns to us. But, you got to respect and treat everybody equally. And, at the end of the day, we're all watch lovers. So, mad props to anyone that loves a watch. So the intangibles, I mean, I'll tell you straight up, I do prefer the Royale, just because, like I said, it's lighter. I said it's not much difference, but in terms of like overall factors, it's lighter, it's more well balanced. This Casio is, I find, a little bit constricting sometimes, especially with the bracelet being so stiff as it is, the watch case being so big. It's great if you're just going to be wearing like a t-shirt and shorts, going to the beach or hitting up the tennis court, whatever have you, just getting out the hammer and doing some work over the weekend or weekday or whatever have you. But, as a general day-to-day put on and just go out the door kind of thing, this roll timer just kind of beats everything hands down from this watch. Like I said, the features are almost identical, and so you don't really gain one thing over the other. What you do get is, the looks, I guess, call it old age or senility. I just like this one more because it just kind of has like a retro vibe that you just don't get out of this one. Granted, if you are wanting to, the Casio here obviously has more colorways, so you can get it in multiple colors, and they also have a Bluetooth and a solar option. So, there's way more variety with the Casio. However, the Royal just kind of is is an icon, really, I suppose. Like, they're both icons, but I think like 100 years later, if you're a true watch enthusiast and aficionado, you probably will have this in your collection, whereas you probably would have rotated the Casio like 4 or 5 of them through your life, like on 3 different colors, but you didn't really keep it because, let's be honest, it's not that great. The Royal is the number 1 watch amongst these 2, at least. And actually, to be honest, the Royal probably gets more wrist time on my wrist than most of my other watches. So, like, looking at dollar to value on a everyday usage, like this Royal probably is the most valuable watch, I guess, so to speak, compared to everything else that I own. So that's just about the intangibles, I guess. Like, at the end of the day, like I said, it's a personal choice, but for myself, definitely the Royal is gonna win, no matter what. Like, any time of the day. Like, if I had a choice between these 2, I would always pick this one, and that's kind of how it's been. I had this watch now for about a year. I've had this one for almost 2 years. When I first got the Casio, I did wear it quite a bit, but over time, when after I got this, it just kind of replaced this. This one just didn't need to be put on anymore because this one was always taking its spot. And I guess, at the heart of the issue is which watch just feels better. We talk about looks of a watch and what's attractive to the eye, what's aesthetic. But at the end of the day, your main point of contact with the watch is not looking at it, but it's feeling it on your wrist. Some watches, titanium watches, and even, of course, a lot of these Casios or a lot of plastic watches, you don't really feel them on the wrist. You don't feel that kind of weightiness that you get out of a stainless steel watch. However, you cannot deny that there's a certain tactile sensation that you get when you just put something on. You know, you can just tell when you put a nice woven shirt versus a very rough polyester shirt. You know, you could just tell the difference in quality from the feel of it. And you know, when you go clothing shopping, you just kind of run your hand through the clothes and you're like, hey, this one feels good, and you're drawn to that. Well, that's kind of how this is really about. You know, I put these on, and anytime I put the Royal on, it just feels good. Anytime I put the Casio on, it doesn't feel as good. And that's pretty much the crux of the argument here. So what do you think? Which one would you pick? Let me know in the comments below, or maybe you own one of these. I'm sure a lot of you do. So let me know what you guys think. I mean, yeah, sure enough, you know, everybody loves a good like Casio, but come on. This is a beauty. You can't deny this. All right, peace. Take care.